All right, so you sent us this Rogan interview with Darryl Cooper, the MartyrMade guy.
Oh, yeah.
From the Joe Rogan Experience, episode number 2289.
Yep.
And it's a wild one.
I know. Yeah.
Let me tell you, roller coaster, this one.
Yeah.
From UFC fights to Jonestown to some really crazy historical takes. This is a deep dive you don't want to miss.
No, you don't.
So
it starts with, Rogan and Cooper kind of talking about a UFC fight.
Yeah.
And they use that to jump into this bigger conversation about, how easily we misinterpret things, both in history and just in life.
It's like Cooper says you might see a fighter like Paul Craig and think, okay, stand-up guy, not too threatening, right?
Right.
But then, bam, he gets you on the ground and suddenly you're tapping out.
Yeah.
Because his jiu-jitsu's on another level.
Exactly. And that's his point. History can be like that.
Yeah.
We get so caught up in the surface level stuff that we miss the deeper, more complex reality.
It's like judging a book by its cover, right?
Totally.
But how do we avoid making those snap judgments, especially when it comes to history?
Well, that's where Cooper's approach to history comes in.
Okay.
And it's definitely gotten him into some hot water.
Yeah.
Especially with his comments on World War II.
Oh, yeah. That Tucker Carlson appearance caused a lot of controversy.
It did.
So what is it about his approach that rubs people the wrong way?
Well, he argues that to really understand history, we need to try and empathize with everyone involved.
Everyone.
Even the people we consider evil.
Okay.
He wants us to see how their actions made sense to them, in their own time and context.
Hold on. I'm getting a bit lost here.
Yeah.
You're saying we should empathize with Hitler.
Well,
How is that even possible?
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's why Cooper's work is so challenging. He's not saying we should forgive or forget atrocities,
Right.
but rather understand the motivations and circumstances that led to them.
Okay. I'm starting to see where he's coming from, but I'm still not sure I'm on board.
Yeah.
He uses Jonestown as an example, right?
He does.
Didn't he spend something like 1,000 hours listening to recordings from the settlement?
He did.
Wow.
Which is pretty mind-boggling. And what he uncovered is that 75% of the Jonestown victims were Black.
Wow.
Yeah. So this adds another layer of complexity to the story.
Especially when we consider the racial dynamics of the time.
Exactly.
So are you saying that racial inequality played a role in the tragedy?
It's definitely a factor, Cooper highlights.
Wow.
Think about it this way. During that period, Black Americans were facing immense societal pressure and discrimination.
Yeah.
Could that have made them more susceptible to the promises of a charismatic leader like Jim Jones?
That's a really good point. It makes you wonder how many people were drawn to Jonestown out of desperation or a sense of hopelessness.
Yeah, and that's one of the key takeaways. Cooper wants us to grapple with how rapid societal change and instability can create an environment ripe for these charismatic leaders to exploit.
Okay.
He even draws a parallel between Jim Jones and Adolf Hitler.
Wait, hold up. How can you compare those two? Jones was leading a cult. Hitler was a dictator who orchestrated a genocide.
Right. It's not about equating their actions, but recognizing a common thread.
Okay.
Both men, despite their horrific deeds, inspired genuine devotion from their followers.
That's terrifying.
Hmm.
It's like a reminder that even in the darkest corners of history, there's a human element we can't ignore. But how do we even begin to process that?
It's unsettling for sure.
Yeah.
And it brings us to another fascinating point Cooper makes about the dangers of historical sources and how they can be just as misleading as those initial impressions we talked about earlier.
Oh, you mean how sometimes history is written by the victors?
Exactly.
Or how certain voices get silenced or overlooked?
Exactly. Cooper argues that just like those misleading stand-up fighters, historical sources can present a skewed or incomplete picture of events.
Oh, I see what you mean.
He even connects this to the way news is reported today,
Really?
especially with examples like the Arab Spring.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Right.
It felt like every media outlet had a different take on what was happening.
Right. And Cooper argues that depending on who journalists interview and which voices get amplified, the story can be distorted even with the best intentions. It makes you wonder, how do we as consumers of information filter through all the noise and find the truth?
It's like we need to become history detectives ourselves, carefully examining the evidence and questioning everything.
And that's where Cooper sees the power of long-form history and in-depth podcasts.
Okay.
He believes these mediums provide the space to explore multiple perspectives and challenge traditional narratives.
It's about digging deeper and getting the full story right,
Precisely.
not just the headlines or the sound bites.
Exactly. Cooper is passionate about the American labor movement.
Oh, really?
And he uses it as an example of how history can be both inspiring and a call to action.
So he's not just about uncovering dark chapters like Jonestown.
Yeah, not at all.
He finds hope in history, too.
Absolutely. He reminds us that things like weekends, the 8-hour workday, workplace safety, these weren't gifts.
Right.
They were hard-won victories by generations of workers who fought for their rights.
It makes you appreciate the sacrifices people made so we could have the lives we have today. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just about the past. It shapes the present and the future.
Right. And speaking of powerful forces shaping the world, Cooper's take on immigration is both insightful and timely.
Oh, yeah.
He dives into the complexities of America's historically open borders, exploring both the positive and negative aspects.
This is a hot-button issue even today,
It is.
with strong opinions on both sides. What's Cooper's angle?
Well, he acknowledges the benefits of immigration, how it has enriched American culture and fueled economic growth.
Right.
But he also dives into the challenges how large waves of immigration, like the Irish influx in the 19th century, or the Great Migration of African Americans from the South, or even the post-1965 wave from all over the globe, forced America to constantly redefine itself and its identity.
It's like the melting pot idea, right? But does that really work? Can a nation truly assimilate such diverse cultures without losing something in the process?
That's the question Cooper poses. Is a true melting pot possible? Or do we end up with a more fragmented society where individual groups hold on to their distinct identities? It's a complex issue with no easy answers, and it's something we're still grappling with today.
It makes you think about the current debates around immigration and national identity. Are we repeating the same patterns throughout history, or are we facing a new set of challenges?
That's the beauty of history, isn't it? It provides a lens through which we can examine current events and understand them on a deeper level. It's not just about dates and names. It's about connecting the dots and seeing the bigger picture.
And that's what Cooper's so good at. He connects the UFC to Jonestown, to immigration, to modern media. It's mind-blowing. But here's a question for you. Why do you think he focuses so much on the darker aspects of history? Is he just a pessimist?
I wouldn't say he's a pessimist. I think he's more of a realist. Yeah. He understands that history is full of both triumphs and tragedies, and he doesn't shy away from the uncomfortable truths. But he also finds hope in the resilience of the human spirit. He shares stories of listeners who have been profoundly affected by his work, discovering a passion for history they never knew they had.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like he's opening up a whole new world for people, helping them connect with the past in a meaningful way.
Exactly. And I think that's ultimately what Cooper's trying to do, to inspire us, to engage with history, to learn from it, to question it, and to use it as a tool for understanding the present and shaping the future.
Wow, what a journey from UFC brawls to the horrors of Jonestown. This conversation really makes you think about the threads that connect us all across time. It's funny, before diving into this Cooper episode, I thought I had like a pretty good grasp on history, at least the major events.
Yeah.
But listening to him talk, it's like he peeled back this other layer.
Right.
Revealing all these like hidden connections and complexities I never even considered.
He's like, hey, don't just settle for the textbook version. Get in there, wrestle with the uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah.
And form your own conclusions.
Exactly. And that brings us back to you. How do you approach history?
That's a good question.
Do you find yourself drawn to the big dramatic events, or are you more interested in the everyday lives of people from the past?
I think for me, it's the connections, right? How seemingly unrelated events or people can have this ripple effect across time.
Oh, interesting.
Like Cooper argues that by understanding the past, even the darkest chapters, we can make better decisions in the present.
It's like having a roadmap.
Yeah.
But instead of guiding us through physical space, it guides us through like the landscape of human behavior and societal patterns.
I like that, a roadmap for the human experience.
Right. It's about recognizing those echoes of the past in our own lives, seeing how decisions made generations ago still ripple through time, impacting the world we live in today.
Precisely. It's like those ripples in a pond.
Yeah.
Even a small pebble can create waves that travel far and wide. And the choices we make today, those are the pebbles that will shape the future.
It's a powerful thought. And it makes you realize that history isn't just some abstract concept. It's a living, breathing force that connects us all.
Absolutely. And Cooper's approach is definitely thought-provoking. And he doesn't shy away from asking those tough questions.
Right. Like what?
Questions like, how do we balance understanding with judgment? Can empathy actually help prevent future atrocities? These aren't easy questions, and there may not be any clear-cut answers.
Yeah, but maybe that's the point. Maybe it's not about finding all the answers, but about engaging in the conversation,
Right.
wrestling with those difficult questions,
Yeah.
and learning from the mistakes of the past.
Exactly. And, perhaps this deep dive has inspired you to seek out more long-form history content.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll check out Darryl Cooper's MartyrMade podcast or explore other in-depth shows that challenge those conventional narratives and make you think differently about the past.
There's a whole world of historical rabbit holes out there just waiting to be explored.
So true.
So keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. That's it for this deep dive, but the conversation doesn't have to end here. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you most from this episode? What questions are you still grappling with? Head over to our website or social media and share your insights. Until next time, happy exploring.